Iran's most prominent nuclear scientist was assassinated today, ambushed and killed near the capital of Tehran. The architect behind Iran's clandestine nuclear weapons program, his death is nothing short of extraordinary. Neither Israel nor the United States has claimed responsibility, yet suspicion has long fallen on Israel. For years, it has been believed that Israel carried out assassinations of several Iranian nuclear scientists, though it has never officially confirmed these operations. This scientist, regarded as the chief mastermind of Iran's covert atomic weapons initiative, was considered indispensable. Leaked documents from within Iran's government confirmed the assassination of the nation's top nuclear mind. Only days earlier, following the announcement of the latest nuclear deal, he had released a new book. That volume, nearly 400 pages long, outlined in chilling detail his vision for the destruction of Israel. Following his usual routine, Iran's leading nuclear scientist began his day before dawn, devoting an hour to religious study before engaging with daily affairs. By afternoon, he and his wife departed their holiday residence on the Caspian Sea, bound for Absard, an exclusive resort town favored by Iran's elite east of Tehran. Although Iran's intelligence services had warned him of an imminent assassination attempt, Dr. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh dismissed the concern. As the driving force behind Iran's nuclear weapons project, his elimination had been a top Israeli objective for more than 10 years. Yet, ignoring the advice of his security team, Fakhrizadeh often chose to drive himself in his personal vehicle instead of using armored convoys with professional drivers, a major lapse in security. Since 2004, Israel's Foreign Intelligence Service, Mossad, has aggressively pursued operations to hinder Iran's nuclear ambitions. Its methods have been direct, ranging from cyber-sabotage of enrichment facilities to systematic assassinations of Iran's most vital scientists. Beginning in 2007, Mossad successfully eliminated 5 key Iranian nuclear experts and injured another. Most of these men worked directly under Fakhrizadeh, engaged in what Israel insisted was a secret warhead program, including the difficult task of miniaturizing nuclear devices for long-range missiles. Israel was also believed to be behind the death of Major General Hassan Moghadam, the mastermind of Iran's ballistic missile arsenal. He perished in a massive explosion at a base near Tehran housing missiles capable of striking Israel. 16 additional officers were killed in the blast, an incident widely thought to be Mossad's work. In 2009, an attempt on Fakhrizadeh's life in Tehran was called off at the last moment after intelligence leaks suggested the operation had been compromised. This time, however, Mossad devised an entirely new strategy. On the afternoon of November 27, 2020, Iranian operatives working with Mossad stationed a blue Nissan pickup truck along Fakhrizadeh's route to Absard. The vehicle was positioned on higher ground, giving a clear view of the road. Hidden beneath tarps in the truck bed lay a Belgian-made 7.62mm FN belt-fed machine gun. Around 1 p.m., Mossad was informed that Fakhrizadeh, accompanied by his wife and a convoy of guards, was preparing to depart. The designated shooter, an expert marksman, adjusted the weapon's sights, readied the system, and lightly touched the trigger. But in truth, he was not in Absard at all. He was over 1,000 miles away, operating remotely through a computer screen. In fact, the entire Mossad team had already left Iran well before the attack began. Despite the precision of the operation, Mossad maintained its long-held policy of silence. This deliberate ambiguity has become a hallmark of Israel's intelligence strategy. Such silence fulfills 2 purposes. First, providing plausible deniability. Second, sending an unmistakable message of deterrence to Israel's enemies. It tells adversaries that open threats against Israel will not go unanswered. Yet, critics argue that these targeted killings, executed outside the bounds of international law, raise profound ethical and legal dilemmas. To them, Israel's actions amount to extrajudicial killings, likely to inflame conflicts rather than resolve them. In Iran, following Fakhrizadeh's death, confusion reigned. State-controlled news agencies, guided by the Revolutionary Guards, released conflicting and often misleading accounts. Some claimed the attack was carried out by a robotic gun, remotely controlled. Others insisted it was a shootout between assassins and bodyguards, alleging that some attackers had been killed or captured. Many Iranians mocked these narratives, viewing them as clumsy attempts to mask an embarrassing breach in security surrounding one of the nation's most protected individuals. However, contrary to widespread skepticism, a robotic weapon was indeed used. The real story, now pieced together from accounts by American, Israeli, and Iranian officials, including intelligence operatives familiar with the planning, reveals how the operation was executed. Its success stemmed from the Revolutionary Guard's missteps, Mossad's meticulous preparation, and Fakhrizadeh's own disregard for strict security measures. At the heart of the mission was the first live test of a computerized firearm equipped with advanced artificial intelligence, multiple cameras, satellite links, and capable of firing 600 rounds per minute. The plot's origins trace back to early 2020, during high-level meetings between Israeli leaders and senior American officials. Mossad chief Yossi Cohen presented possible strategies, one of which was assassinating Fakhrizadeh, a top Israeli objective since 2007. Present were U.S. officials, including President Trump, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and CIA Director Gina Haspel. American approval was ultimately secured. Part of this confidence came from Iran's muted response to the earlier U.S. strike that killed General Qasem Soleimani. Iran's restraint suggested that a direct attack on Fakhrizadeh might not trigger uncontrollable escalation. Surveillance of him intensified as Mossad gathered intelligence. Still, eliminating him would be no simple task. After Soleimani's death, Iran had reinforced protections around its senior figures. Fakhrizadeh's security was managed by the Ansar unit of the Revolutionary Guards, heavily armed, highly trained, and communicating through encrypted systems. He traveled in convoys of up to 7 vehicles, frequently altering routes and times to avoid patterns. Israel's assassinations in previous years had taken many forms. In 2007, Ardashir Hosseinipour, a physics professor tied to Iran's nuclear effort, mysteriously died, later believed to be Mossad's doing through radioactive poisoning. In 2010, Majid Shahriari, a nuclear reactor expert, was killed when motorcycle-riding assassins attached a magnetic bomb to his car. The device was detonated remotely. In July 2011, Dariush Rezaianejad, an electrical engineer linked to nuclear weapons components, was shot dead in Tehran by 2 motorcycle gunmen. Western intelligence later alleged he had been developing parts for detonating nuclear warheads. Years later, in January 2018, Mossad carried out one of its boldest missions. Agents infiltrated a warehouse in Tehran, storing Iran's secret nuclear archives. Cutting through 32 secure vaults, they extracted more than 50,000 pages of documents and 163 compact disks. These materials were smuggled out of Iran and delivered to Israel, where they were unveiled months later as proof of Iran's covert nuclear ambitions. In April, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu revealed secret documents, presenting his case that Iran's leadership had deceived the international nuclear community by repeatedly claiming that their nuclear program served only peaceful purposes. Netanyahu showcased evidence linked to Project Ahmad, the Iranian initiative aimed at designing, building, and testing nuclear weapons. 2 years later, on August 7, 2020, Abdullah Ahmed Abdullah, a senior figure in al-Qaeda, was gunned down in Iran. Israeli operatives from Kedan, the Mossad's specialized assassination unit, carried out the mission, targeting Abdullah while he drove his car. Alongside him, his daughter, widow of Osama bin Laden's late son Hamza bin Laden, was also reportedly killed in the ambush. Abdullah had been one of the original 22 individuals placed on the FBI's most wanted terrorists list. The United States sought him for his suspected role in orchestrating the American embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania during the late 1990s. The following year, in April 2021, a massive explosion struck Iran's principal uranium enrichment complex, destroying thousands of centrifuges. An Iranian investigator later asserted that some 300 pounds of explosives had been smuggled into the facility, hidden within equipment. Almost a year after this, in May 2022, Colonel Sayyad Kodai was fatally shot outside his residence in Iran. Reports said 2 gunmen on motorcycles fired at him through his car windows, striking him 5 times. Israeli officials alleged Kodai was deputy commander of Unit 840, a branch of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, believed to be responsible for kidnapping and assassinating foreigners, including Israeli citizens and officials. Other accounts indicated that Kodai provided counsel to Iranian-backed forces in Syria and organized shipments of missile and drone technologies to Hezbollah. Later that same year, between late May and early June 2022, 2 Iranian scientists died under mysterious circumstances that attracted international attention. The first incident took place on May 31st, when Ayub Entazari, an aerospace engineer tied to Iran's military research in turbine and missile development, died from poison allegedly slipped into his food. This raised strong suspicions of Mossad involvement. Just days afterward, on June 2nd, Kamran Agamolaei, a geologist, also perished, reportedly from poisoned food as well. The close timing of their deaths, combined with their scientific expertise, intensified theories of targeted assassinations, particularly as their research was considered critical to Iran's military nuclear capabilities. Despite a string of covert operations and high-profile assassinations thought to be orchestrated by Mossad, eliminating Fakhrizadeh presented an even greater challenge. His every movement was shielded by a heavily armed motorcade, making direct attacks extremely difficult. When the concept of deploying a robotic machine gun was raised, Mossad gave the idea serious weight, primarily because it minimized risks to operatives. Israel selected a modified version of the Belgian FN MAG machine gun, integrated with an advanced robotic control system. The setup was said to resemble the Sentinel-20 model, designed by Spanish defense contractor Escribano. The weapon, robotic mechanisms, and additional equipment together weighed nearly a ton. These components were smuggled piece by piece into Iran and secretly reassembled. Cameras mounted on the system provided a full visual of the target and surrounding area. The vehicle carrying the weapon was also rigged with explosives to self-destruct after the mission, leaving no evidence behind. Fakhrizadeh had been raised in a devout family in Qom, the heart of Shia Islam. At 18, during the Islamic Revolution that toppled the Shah, he experienced a historical turning point that shaped his ambitions. He pursued dual goals: becoming a nuclear scientist while simultaneously serving in the military arm of the new Islamic Republic. Rising through the ranks, he became a general in the Revolutionary Guard. He also earned a PhD in nuclear physics, writing his thesis on neutron identification at Isfahan University of Technology. According to Iran's former atomic energy chief, Fakhrizadeh was pivotal in advancing Iran's missile and nuclear programs. He directed missile projects for the Revolutionary Guards, led the national nuclear program, and made substantial contributions to Iran's drone industry. Reports from 2 Iranian officials indicated that he collaborated with North Korea on missile development. At the time of his assassination, Fakhrizadeh was serving as Iran's deputy defense minister. He played a vital role in bypassing international sanctions, securing restricted technologies and sensitive equipment. Known for avoiding publicity, he rarely took vacations and deliberately kept away from the media. His professional life was wrapped in secrecy, better understood by Mossad than even the Iranian public. Fakhrizadeh's work was so concealed that even his children appeared unaware of its full nature. Iran's nuclear program remains under constant global scrutiny. Although Iranian authorities maintain that their objectives are strictly peaceful, focused on generating energy and medical applications, the United States, Israel, and other nations remain unconvinced. Their mistrust arises from Iran's history of secret nuclear activities and its repeated refusals to fully cooperate with international monitors, particularly the International Atomic Energy Agency. The assassination of Fakhrizadeh, a central figure in Iran's nuclear framework, sparked widespread international concern. His influence extended beyond science. It reached into strategic and potentially military domains. The blurring of these civilian and military boundaries has heightened global apprehensions. His death underscored the opaque aspects of Iran's ambitions and raised pressing questions about the nation's future course, especially in light of regional security and diplomatic stability. This operation was a stark reminder of the unresolved tensions and uncertainty surrounding Iran's nuclear pursuits, adding yet another layer to the already complex Middle Eastern geopolitical situation. It not only deepened hostilities between Iran and its adversaries, but also jeopardized renewed talks over the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran nuclear deal. That agreement, which limited Iran's nuclear activities in return for the easing of economic sanctions, had already been destabilized by the United States' unilateral withdrawal in 2018. Following Fakhrizadeh's assassination, Iran vowed to press ahead with its nuclear development, with reports suggesting an acceleration of activities, further complicating diplomacy. Global powers now face the difficult task of balancing efforts to block Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons while avoiding a regional conflict spiraling into full-scale war. The story of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh encapsulates the wider narrative of Iran's nuclear ambitions, international diplomacy, and regional struggles for power. His secretive yet influential legacy continues to shape the geopolitical chessboard, leaving behind a critical chapter in understanding the complexity of Middle Eastern dynamics.